Today is all about kind of putting together all the things that we've been learning for the past 2 whole months. Now, the description of this class in like the link that you clicked on, it was wrong. It said like that you needed a photograph, and that was for last week. So I think it was just an error that I didn't catch. So you do not need a photograph, a black and white photograph. That was last week. So don't worry about that. But as you guys know, we have been spending the past 2 whole months each week going over a different element of art. So we started off with line, and then we went to shape, then we went to line, shape, value, texture, form. We did them all. Every week we focused on a different element of art. And the elements of art really are the building blocks of all art. So, and you kind of, color was one. I don't know why I forgot to mention color. So today I'm just going to be doing an observational drawing. So I'm going to be drawing something in my home, but it's really going to be combining all of the things that we have learned. So learning how to look for texture, learning how to look at a space, learning how to try to get the shape right, learning how to use get the proportions correct. And last week, I know we drew from a photograph. So I think last week we were working on our on these drawings. So last week we drew from a photograph, but this week is different because when you're drawing from a photograph, a lot of the work is already done for you in that the camera has already translated this 3D object into a 2D picture already for you. So a lot of the learning how to look for light part is already done. So instead, today, what we're going to do is you're going to pick an object. It can be anything in your house. It can be absolutely anything. And we're going to try to do an observational drawing. And so I think the object I picked today was just like a little vase. It has a little plant in it. And I like it because it's like you can see all like the roots and stuff kind of growing in the bottom. And so I'm going to be trying to use what I've learned using the lines, shapes, form, all of these things, kind of combining them together to create a finished piece. Now, I probably won't finish in this period of time, but I can show you some examples of some finished ones that I've done. Let's see here. Oh, that was me just getting set up, but this is an example of a finished piece that is totally drawn observationally. And each one is, I think I did something a little bit different. So it was all looking at the same plant, but each time I zoomed in a little bit closer and closer. So I started off with this whole like plant, and this was done entirely in graphite and pencil. And then the next drawing, I zoomed in a little bit more. So I think I focused in like kind of on this little section right here. And I added in color into that side, Get a little closer so you can see. I added in color. And then the final drawing, I zoomed in even farther. I think it's literally just the tip of this plant right here. And this was done in ink. So I think I drew it in pencil first and then I inked it with, I think just like a really fine line micron pen. So these are just like an example of how much detail and how you can really start to like change up what you do when you draw observationally. So, and it's like I said, it's good practice for any artist, even if you're just drawing in characters, even if you just like drawing from your imagination. Chuck Jones would always, when he trained to be an artist, when he went to art school, he trained in painting, he trained in drawing, and all of these are just good foundational skills to practice before they're just foundational like skills to practice, and they can help you when you're drawing from your imagination. You can help you when you're kind of creating drawings that are coming from your own head. So, all right, so we're just gonna go ahead and get started. And like I said, you can draw anything you'd like today. It doesn't have to be, I would suggest that the simpler is a little bit better. Like you don't want something that's crazy complex. Because what happens is you can get lost in the tiny details. One thing that I kind of like to do whenever I'm making an observational drawing is I like to make like a little border. I just did it before class. I just used a ruler and I created a rectangle because that can kind of help you to know what to draw. And in fact, let me go to my other camera real fast. I don't have one here, but do I have one? Let me look. Sometimes it can be really helpful. I'll just make one real fast. I'll make one to show you. Sometimes it can be really helpful when you're drawing observationally to make a viewfinder. So I'm just going to make a quick viewfinder, and it's as simple as taking a piece of paper. I'm going to fold it. Let me grab a pair of scissors. 1 second. Here we go. So it's as simple as taking a piece of paper and just cutting out a rectangle. Actually, let me do a little bit like this. Maybe it's a little more squarish. I'm just I just took a little notch out. I'm just going to cut around it like this. Now I have like a little picture frame, basically is what I made. And you can use that little picture frame, and I'm putting it in front of where I'm drawing because it can help me kind of get a sense of the composition. This is super, super duper helpful when you're drawing something observationally because it can help you narrow the focus of what you're drawing. Sometimes when you're looking at something, you're like, there's a lot there. You kind of don't know where to start. I suggest making a little window, making a little frame and like a little viewfinder, not Moana, not a wayfinder, and kind of zooming in and trying to go from there. And in fact, you don't ever have to draw the whole thing. Like maybe I just use my viewfinder, maybe I just zoom in and I only draw one little part of my object. But I highly, highly recommend that you try out a viewfinder because it can really, really help you with your composition. And a composition is the way that things are organized on your page. Man, Nathaniel, you were going crazy with these today. All right, I hope you guys get started. So I'm going to go ahead and get started drawing now that I have my viewfinder. And you can see that the shape of my viewfinder that I made kind of matches the shape of the frame that I made on my picture on my page. And I did that on purpose because now it's going to be easier for me to like translate what I see through my viewfinder onto my page. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna try to do the whole thing because it's not too much because I picked a kind of simple object. So as always, just like when we're starting with our characters, we start off with sketchy. Start off with these sketchy lines and kind of go from there. So I'm gonna start off with like, starting with the shape. Shape comes first. So there's kind of this bowl shape. So I'm drawing like an ellipsis. And then it kind of comes down here, kind of comes down and out. Ooh. You know what? It is definitely going to go off the page. And that's okay. That's kind of why a frame is kind of interesting. So it's kind of going, so if I was going to actually draw it off the page, and sometimes I do that, I'm actually going to draw it going off the page the way that I drew. See how on these ones, I'm actually, they almost always came out of the boxes, and that's totally fine. So here's the shape, and then coming out are the roots. Drawing through glass is always interesting because glass, there's a distortion effect when you're looking at something through glass. And so it makes your drawings it's kind of an interesting, it gives an interesting effect. So I'm figuring out how this comes out. So this leaf is going to come out straight. One comes over here, and then it kind of comes down like this. It's a big curve. It might even be so big it comes off the page. Comes over like this. So I really, really, really push you guys to try to draw from observation. I know that you love drawing your characters, and I know that a lot of it is just you just want to do the cartooning part. But as Chuck Jones would say, practicing your observational drawing would help. It only helps you in this learning how to draw stage. So, and this kind of comes over here. So like I said, keep it light because you'll find that when you start to sketch, like things will definitely change. I'm curious what you guys are choosing to draw. Does anybody want to share what they've picked? No? Nobody wants to share what they've picked. That's okay. You don't have to share now. You can pick something, you share later. I'm going to add in this. Then, so next month, I don't think we've actually posted anything yet, but next month is going to be a fun month. We're going to be doing another cartooning month. So, but it's going to be a little bit different because next month is March. And I don't know if you guys know this, but March is Women's History Month. So we're going to be doing cartooning, but there's going to be a focus on women in animation and women artists. So get ready for that. You're not sure yet? No worries. You might not know what you want to draw, and that's totally fine. Sometimes, I mean, you don't have to pick an object. You could also draw a face in if you'd like. It doesn't have to be like a piece of like a plant or something. It can be anything. It could be, you could literally draw your pencil if you have a second pencil to draw it with. You could draw your hand. You always have your hand. Hands are good, like extra awesome things to practice drawing because they're always there. Your hand is always with you. So this is actually a little in farther. So that's why we draw lightly.
Joe Cool is asking, should we be drawing or just watching?
Oh, draw. You should be, you're picking out what you want to draw, and you guys are sketching something in with observation, like an observational drawing of your own. Good question. Sorry if I didn't make that clear. Yeah, you should be drawing. You should pick something to draw. It can be something like as simple as your hand, or it can be something, around your house. It could be if your characters are based on like a specific animal, it could be like a cat or something. You could totally base it on that. Like you could try, if you have a house cat, you could try to draw it. They'll stay still for you, but that's always challenging to draw animals because they'll move. This is in front right there. So right now I'm overlapping all my shapes. That was another lesson that we learned. It was like forms and overlapping. This is coming up here like this. Another one. It's kind of curving around. This one has some foreshortening. Foreshortening is definitely foreshortening means when something is going like back into a picture, and that can be really tricky to draw because things that are foreshortened, the perspective gets kind of mixed up. And it's like a whole thing to learn how to draw something that is foreshortened. So I'm just kind of getting this shape, general shape. I'm not worried about the details yet. I'm literally just kind of trying to capture the big shapes. So I'm trying to capture the roundness of this bowl. I'm trying to capture the general outline shape of these leaves. I'm trying to kind of get a sense of where these roots are going to go. And you know what? Because this is a little longer, I'm actually going to extend my frame down a little bit farther, just so that I will be able to fit the bottom of this vase shape in. I'm going to extend it down just a little bit. And then I'm actually going to draw in what it's sitting on, because right now it's just like a floating vase and I don't want it to be floating. So I want to like start to think about, all right, what's it sitting on? So I think that there's like a thing back here. sitting on a table that's kind of coming, a box, sitting on a box. So I'm actually going to draw this box, and I can actually use my ruler to help me with that. I hope you guys can see what I'm doing, because I know it's a little, I'm working a little light because it's the first layer. So I'm using form right now. So all of those elements, I've already used 3 of them in my drawing. I have shape, I have form, I have line, all the things. Okay, and then down here, there's like a mess of roots, and I'm not even gonna be too precious about all these roots yet. I'm just gonna like leave that, like can start to kind of add in the hint of where they're going, but sometimes you don't want to draw everything all at once. Don't get overwhelmed if there's like a lot going on. Okay. Now that I kind of have the shapes of things penciled in, now I'm gonna go back and like clear things up and make sure, clean things up, make sure they are where they're supposed to be. So this was coming through here, and then it kind of came down through here. There's some distortion because of the glass. So this kind of comes over. All right, so I'm cleaning that up. Does anybody know what they're drawing now, or I'm curious? Your cats move right as, yeah, I know, it's true. It's true. Okay, everybody just keep on working. I see a lot of you guys are just watching me. Don't just watch me, pick something. I'm curious what you guys are working on. Oh, hi Kat, I didn't see you join earlier, but welcome. I like your, the pink snake with the, is that a snake with a top hat? It's kind of rad. All right, so now I have kind of the basic shapes in. And then I can start to think about adding in shading and stuff. So this is like going to be a pretty quick drawing. I'm not like with something that was more finished like this was actually, it reflects, you know, some hours of work. There for sure there was like, I mean, it was at least 3 hours worth of work in this drawing. So today you might not have the same like finished piece because, you know, we only have an hour-long class, and you might not have known what you were going to, and realistically you only have like 45 minutes to draw. So, and that's okay. So we're just kind of capturing the general sense. When I used to live in New York City, one of the things that I would really like to do is I would bring my my sketch pad, and I would like go and sit like in parks, sometimes in the subway, and I try to, like, one of my drawing teachers was just really, really big on observational drawing, and they were like, well, we just want you to just practice, and just like, even if that means drawing people you see on the subway. And it's like drawing a cat. Like when you're drawing a live thing, like a human being or you know, an animal, they don't sit still. So you gotta capture them as quickly as you can. And that's definitely something that takes a lot of practice.
I would like to share.
Sure.
So I just wanted to share what I'm drawing and what I have so far, which is hard because I'm drawing something in a weird position.
Ooh.
So I'm drawing it. It looks like a lumpy potato. And I'm actually trying to draw this.
That's awesome. These get really cute. So texture is going to be a lot of what you're drawing is there's going to be a lot of texture involved in that because he's kind of furry, right? It's kind of fluffy and soft. So you have to think about what kinds of pencil strokes you're going to use to help like get the sense of furriness. And like, yeah, that's and you also want to start to think about, and we haven't talked about this yet, but you want to start to think about where the light is coming from your picture. So where is the light coming from? In my case, the light is really coming from this side of the picture, because behind this plant is the window, and the window is cracked right now. So I can see like really bright reflections coming in on this glass, coming in right here. So once you've captured the general shape, you can start to think about the light. You can start to think about texture and you can start to think about all these other elements. But when you're drawing, usually what comes first is shape, which is, so you're right now, you might still be on shape, and that's fine. But especially with an observational drawing, a lot of it is working in layers. So starting with the shapes, then adding in a layer the textures and the light and the shadows, all of those things. So I'm actually going to start thinking about shading. So I know that the colors, this side is my darker side. So I'm actually going to start like shading it a little bit. And the glass down here is definitely darker. So once you feel like you're ready, you can start adding in shadows. So and I always say this, but it's a lot of it is training your brain. You're training your brain to look for the light. And in a lot of observational drawing, it's not what you see, or sorry, it's not what you're drawing what you actually see. You're trying not to draw what you think you see. So a lot of times when we're drawing, we're like, oh, I know what that looks like, and I'm just gonna draw it, but like, because I think it looks like this, but it might not be right. So you have to really, really, really train your eye and your hand to draw what it is that you're truly seeing versus what you think you see. If that makes any sense. Draw what you see. Always go back to what you see, even if you think it might not be right. So I know the color down here is darker. So I'm gonna start to shade that in down here. I love that you picked that creature, Evie. That's awesome. Or sorry, not Evie, Cat. That's awesome. What is it? It looks like a little porg. What is it?
It's a platypus thing. I'm not entirely sure because platypuses have tails. But it looks like a platypus. So this is not a beaver, so I don't know.
Gotcha.
This is kind of platypus-y thing.
Platypus type thing. All right. Does anybody else want to share what they've picked to sketch? So right now I'm actually drawing in the shadow of what I see, and it's like the shadow is really kind of coming out this way. So I'm just kind of drawing in the pencil lines of where the shadow is going to go, because I'm really looking right at the dark side of my drawing. And sometimes as you're drawing, you're going to find that the thing that you think was really simple is not so simple. I'm one to speak because glass is not easy. I picked something that was on the harder side, and that's okay. It's nice to have a challenge. You might also want to switch pencils. If you have pencil different varieties, like I have an 8B here, and I have an HB. I'm actually going to switch to my HB because the higher there, sorry, the H in your pencil stands for hard, And the harder the lead, the finer the details you're going to be able to get and be able to capture. So now I'm going to go back in and like start to think about where all these roots are going. So like they're kind of coming down here. I'm not going to draw all of them. Sometimes it's like as an artist, you're training yourself to like, you don't have to draw all of it. You can pick just a part of it. So you are the master, and you are doing the translating of the drawing onto your page. So that might mean that you might not draw all of it. You might just pick a part, especially something that's super, super highly detailed. Coming up here, like that. There's roots coming out from over here. There's more of them that are coming down. So many roots. So I've got to like narrow down and just choose a few to draw, because otherwise it's going to be really overwhelming to try to draw all of them. So I'm picking the ones that stand out the most, narrowing the drawing. I like this one kind of goes around here. So for the areas of highlights, I'm actually going to leave those, like I'm going to have to go back in. And another tool that it's kind of nice to have is this is just a water-based varnish pencil, and you can use it to like kind of erase within specific areas. It's like a sharpenable eraser. So when I'm drawing, I will use this to kind of clean up the drawing afterwards. But I'm not really ready for that yet. So I'm going to start to add in the shading, the shadow down here. So there's lots of different types of mark making when you're adding shadows. If you're trying to do like a quick shadow, even just cross hatching when you're doing like a character drawing, cross hatching can kind of give you the sense of a shadow in a really quick way. So that's kind of an easy, fast way. There's more a blended, smudgy look if you're going for a more realistic style. It's totally up to you. But like I mentioned earlier, because next week is Heroine Month, so it's Female History, it's Women's History Month, and we're going to be focusing on women in comics. You can start to think now about women who inspire you, women who interest you, because you're going to be picking a character that is a heroine for a comic. So start to think about who that could be, because that's one of the things that you're going to be asked to do first, and it'll help you if you come in knowing who you want to draw, then that can help. So start thinking about heroines, and that could be like a famous woman in history, or it could be like a character that you've made up that is a woman. So, but start to think about that.
Can I show?
Absolutely.
So this is an owl that holds our door.
Let me see. I have a use gallery view. Whoa, that's rad. Nathaniel, you are so fast. You're like one of the fastest drawers. So I'm going to challenge you to go back in and see if you can up the contrast in that drawing. So anywhere where the darkest areas, see if you can make those even a little bit darker, and leave the highlight areas even a little lighter. And so because it's a fabric owl, that means that the shading is kind of subtle. So you got to start to think about like how do you give the impression that owl is fabric? Like,
yeah,
how can you...
So I made it a little darker. I just used smudge. I just smudged it.
Yeah, you smudged it, which is awesome. That's an awesome way of doing it. Totally awesome way of doing it. I'm going to challenge you to try to make the darker areas even a little darker, because I know I've mentioned in the past that a lot of it is A lot of drawings are the contrast isn't there. So even in your sketches, because we have a lot of time, especially if you're spending a lot of time on something. If you're working on a second drawing, then and you're just working really quick, then you might not want to worry about that. But if you are spending some time on a piece, you might want to like go back and see if you can add in some more shadow or some more dark areas. You want to try to like capture those super dark areas, and so because you want a lot of contrast in your piece.
Lee, there was a compliment in the comments. I don't know if you saw that. It says, Lee, your art is really pretty. I get like soft plant aesthetic vibes from it, and I love it.
Oh, thanks, guys. That's really sweet of you. Well, it's all about just keeping up the drawing. And it's all about trying, like I said, I think I said this every week, but it's all about trying new things and not always going back and trying what you're familiar with. Trying your hand at something new. So I'm adding in some contour lines because they kind of help give the impression of three dimensions. Yes. I'm going to try to say three-dimensionality, but I don't know if is that a word? Three dimensions. Start adding in some of these veins and this leaf over here. Go. Does anybody else want to share what they're working on? It's going to be a totally different switch from this week to next week. We're going to totally change things up. It's going to be a very different vibe because we're going, at least in my classes, because we're going from observational drawing based to imagination drawing based, which is a lot of just pretty fun. What is
Peter
it
would
missing?
like to share.
I'd love to see.
I just got a hand right now. Yeah.
Ooh, that's awesome. Ooh, I love it. I think that your shading, it looks great. You've really captured the shape and the form. That you can see the forms are really there. That looks awesome. Yeah. Jason, it looks really realistic. I agree. Agreed. That looks awesome. Yeah, when your hand is always a classic to draw because it like your hand's attached to you. It's always there. It's always there. It's not going anywhere. So it's just good practice to draw. And if you finish one drawing and you want to move to something else, go for it. If you're like, I've drawn this, try something else. I mean, some of the things that we practiced this month, I was literally trying to, this past couple months, I was going through all the different lessons that we did. But like, remember, we had an entire lesson just based on drawing in an eyeball. We had an entire lesson based on drawing in forms, like learning how to capture forms. So if you can always go back and you know, if you've done your hand and you want to try out your eye, go for it. Try a different body part. Try your foot. That's kind of an interesting one. I'm trying to find the eyeball drawings, but I'm not here right now. I'll have to find them later. Let's see here. There's some more of this. These lines are coming like that. Down like that. I hope everybody had a good weekend. Did anybody do anything fun? No. Okay, coming out of the page over here. Go back. I think this needs to kind of come up like that. Yeah, or like that. Here we go. Something like this. Oh yeah, we had an entire class based on texture, and I remember we were like, we had the dinner party question, the surrealist dinner party. That was a fun class. I hope all of you guys get the chance to go and take some like actual like in-person drawing classes back when we can go in person, because it's really fun, especially like when you're in high school and college. You can take figure drawing classes. They're super fun. Although some high schools will offer like figure drawing, and it's kind of the best way to really learn how to capture forms, especially if you're interested in character design. It's just really, really good practice.
Kat would like to share.
Love to see Kat. Let's see.
I ended up changing the pose a little bit because I was getting really confused with the forms and the positioning.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's hard to translate things with gravity, pulling on them and showing them where they're three-dimensional into two-dimensional things, especially when you can't just magically shade everything, can't just shade something before you know, because
it's true. That's a really tricky part of it.
This is what I have so far. I ended up turning it sideways.
Ooh, I like the angle from which you're working. So we were talking about foreshortening, and that's what you're doing. You're really trying to you're like drawing your character, your object from above. So you're working from a really interesting perspective.
Drawing it from above and the side, which is my perspective.
Yeah, don't forget, you have some nice strong shadows there. Don't forget to add in those shadows, because your light, you can really see that your light is coming from like this side of your drawing. So you have some really super strong shadows, and you also have you can see in the fur of that stuffy, that like it really like it goes from light to dark really nicely. So you could start at doing in shading. Like honestly, like who's to say, like nobody's stopping you. Go for it. Add in some shading. I did perspective in art today. It's true. Like when we're drawing things from observation, which means that you're doing perspective. You're doing it all. Drawing from observation is really tricky because you're doing it all. Like you have to combine all the things, all of those elements. And you're working to like, meld them all together to make something look real, which is not easy to do. It's very much not easy to do. Maybe I'm gonna take a page from Nathaniel's book, and I'm gonna start do some, only because I think it'll help this drawing go a little faster. The problem with smudging is like you can definitely get your work get messy real fast, and so it's nice to have like that varnish pencil nearby to really kind of help clean things up. And then like smudging also can kind of lighten up some of your lines, so you kind of have to go back in and like darken up areas. But it can definitely like make your work go a little bit faster, for sure. Which in this case of this class, when there's not a lot of time, you're only working on something for an hour, can help out. So I'm going through, and I think I mentioned this a couple weeks ago when we were doing shading. It's a lot of it is working in layers. You're working in layers. You're going over and over and over, and you're looking for like those areas of super, super dark. So when I use my frame and I'm looking at my thing, what I'm looking at is like, where is the darkest spot in my drawing? And I can tell you right now that it's kind of down here in this water, because this water is kind of murky. So I definitely need to like clean up and darken this area right here. So spend some time where you're not just, your focus is entirely on looking for light, areas of pockets of light and pockets of dark. So I'm right now, all I'm doing is I'm looking for the dark. And I'm going to go through my picture and I'm going to add in those dark areas. So I see areas of dark over here that need to be emphasized. Keep working over here. This whole, like the rim of the water is darker. Down here at the base, it could definitely be a lot darker down here. You know what? I think this whole base, didn't spend a lot of time on it, but when you're doing a shadow, under where the area that is closest to the bottom is usually going to be the darkest part of your shadow. And then as the shadow expands outward, it gets lighter and lighter. So underneath, directly underneath is this like super dark shadow. So just by starting to darken it up, it'll start to give this form, it'll start to make it look a lot more solid. Just like that. And then a lot of it is using that value. So working, starting dark and then using the pencil and kind of lightening up as I'm working out. So now I'm still looking for areas of darkness. And you know what? I didn't even really draw it in. I need to go back in and add it. But like the base of this right here, this glass drawing down here has a line on it that is super dark. I need to go back in and add. And that might happen to you when you're drawing something. And when you stop looking at shape and you start thinking about light and dark, like that might happen to you where you're like, oh, I forgot to draw in this little part. So I'm definitely gonna add in that. There's like some areas of bright. And highlights are always the kind of the last thing you want to add in. And the reason is it's because, I mean, you kind of want to have a sense of where they are, where the brightest ones are, so that you can avoid them when you're drawing, when you're adding in shading. But like, it's really, really likely that they become very muddled. And so you want to like take your eraser and clean them up last, kind of get to leave them like nice and bright. So like there's definitely like an area of highlight up here that I need to add in, but I also need to add in an area of shadow right next to it. And sometimes that happens, especially when you're drawing in glass. There's like areas of light that are right next to areas of dark. There is about 10 minutes left. So if anybody wants to share, they're welcome to, or if you want to like just keep working and go on, go for it. Add in the rim of this base. We're still looking for dark areas. There's darkness here. Where else? There's some darkness in the root up here. I haven't even really been focusing on the roots, but I can start to shade in the actual stems, which I need to do now. So where the dark, they're darker on this side, and as I move over, they get lighter.
May I show?
Absolutely.
So when you said to make it look like fabric, I literally just took this and just squeezed its head and made a picture out of it.
That's awesome. I love it.
See that? There's my hand right there.
I totally see your hand squeezing it. So you were drawing not only your hand but the fabric owl.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's good practice. Yeah, fabric is tricky because you have to like look to see like, does the fabric like fold over? Are there wrinkles? You can see like in my shirt, which has a pattern of, I don't know if you can see, there's squirrels skiing on it, but you can see like there's like a lot of light shadow. And so like the way you draw fabric is really trying to like emphasize those areas where there's like, you know, the folds and the curves, and they might not be as apparent as this, especially like it depends on what kind of fabric you're working on, but there's a lot of like really soft values that go from like bright light to dark. And you can see like right here along the tip is like the super brightest area, and then it like the value gradually gets darker and darker and darker until you get to the darkest area, which is right in the inside. So you thought it was a big stain? No, they're not stains. It's they're little squirrel. They're skiing squirrels with hats, of course, as all shirts should have on them.
There's Tater.
Yeah, let's see Tater.
I just got an update on the hand.
Ooh, oh, I love it. I can really tell you went through and you were looking for shadows. That looks awesome.
Yeah.
That looks really, really good. Nice practice, really nice practice. I love it. You guys are pros. I'm not joking around. Ben and I were talking about you guys the other day, and we were talking about how there's so many of you that have been consistently coming, and how much improvement we have seen over the past year that we've been doing these classes. And you can really, really see how much you guys have grown as artists. And it's really amazing. We should all be incredibly proud of yourself for sticking with it, and for continuing, and just like for all the growth you guys have shown, because it's kind of incredible. Kat, do you want to share? Go right ahead.
So this is kind of what I have now. Not very much.
That's okay. That looks awesome. It totally is.
Drawing fur takes a long time.
Yeah, if you want to be quick about it, like I would start, now that you have the shapes down, I would start looking for the areas of shadow. So look for the areas of like where darkest is, and start shading those areas in. Okay, just look for, all you're doing is looking for the darkest areas. So start with shading. You've gotten worse. I doubt that too, Tater. I totally doubt that. And you know, Chuck Jones always says, you've got, what's the number? I always get the number wrong, Scott. 10,000 bad drawings
so.
that you've got to get out before you get to the good ones. So don't worry. You're just getting those bad ones out. I definitely myself have hundreds of bad drawings. I don't think I've gotten all 1,000 of my bad drawings out yet. In fact, I was doing something the other day. Scott was filming me, and I turned to Scott and I said, I think that was the worst drawing I've ever done. Like, it happens. It just, everybody has good days and bad days. You've gotten at least 1K out, yeah. Good. You're on the road. It's the path. This is the, what is it? What do they say in The Mandalorian? This is the way. This is the way. I have spoken. Lol. Oh, that's funny. All right. I need to add in the highlights back here. Yeah, it is definitely a lot of, things take a lot of practice. Gotta work hard at them. Somebody once said that like I think that in the world, there is a lot of when there's a stereotype of an artist just having a big aha moment, and like all of a sudden being like just having this great idea and being the best artist ever. But in reality, being an artist is never about having an aha moment. The best artists are just ones who treat art as like as a job or as work, but a work that you love, because an artist who goes to work and draws or does something every day that's what an artist is. It's less of like a genius who just all of a sudden comes up with like, the light bulb over the head. So you guys are all artists because you come to class and you draw every day, which a lot of people don't. All right. Really no good in art. It's all the eye. It's true. That's true, Tater. This is true. There's a lot of subjectivity in art. That's why when I was teaching art, the hardest thing to do for me as an art teacher was honestly to grade. Grading in art is really tricky. It had to be the grading. The only way I knew how to grade art was by effort. Like if you put time into it, if you showed me that you like actually spent amount of time and tried to like follow the brief. Basically, you didn't just kind of go off and draw your own thing all the time. Then you did well. Now, if you just came to class and only drew one thing without trying something new or trying to like, extend yourself, then you didn't do well. So that was the only way I knew how to grade, was by essentially by effort, because art really truly is subjective. It is in the eye of the beholder. And it's true, they aren't only doodlers, sketchers, and painters. Absolutely, you're absolutely right. There's so many different forms of art. Oh my gosh. So many different forms. That's a good point. We talk a lot about drawing and sketching and cartooning in this class because that's the focus. And that's, to be honest, that's kind of what we can do like on an online class like this, but there's so many like sculptors and poets and all sorts of different types of artists. 100% true.
Raised your hand.
Yeah, let's see.
So I kind of just an update on what I've done now.
Adding in the shading, awesome. I see you're starting with the darkest areas, right?
Right, yes. Also, awesome.
Also what?
What?
Okay, keep going, Kat.
The thing is that, so when I started, it was still mostly light outside, and I have 2 windows, so my lighting's changed slightly.
That is a good point, and that it can be really tricky that lighting changes. That's why sometimes when you know you're going to be spending a lot of time doing a drawing, sometimes an artist, or sometimes they'll take a photograph of it just so that you have it kind of set. But that is really, really true, is that like things change pretty quickly. And if you ever get the chance to take a figure drawing class, a lot of times it's all about quick poses. Like you'll only draw something for 5 minutes. And in those cases, it's all about line. You're not focusing in on shading. You're really not focusing in on texture. All those details don't necessarily matter when you're doing like a super quick drawing. But because we had an hour to draw, I wanted to focus, and because this was our final drawing, I kind of wanted to talk about all the different elements. So I wanted to add in shading and add in texture and all the details that go with that. But you're totally right. Like, you're totally right, Kat. It's a lot, it takes a lot of time. All right, guys. Well, I hope that you guys have learned something the past couple months. I hope I've pushed you to come outside of your comfort zones and to try something new. That's a good list. Authors, musicians, sculptors, so many. Oh my gosh, so many different forms of artistry. Dancers, like so many. Oh, thanks, Tater. Yeah, Justin, Tater just reminded me. Thank you, Tater Tot and Scott. We are donation based. So this month, if you chance, oh, sorry, I switched my video. I was trying to go to my face. So if you get a go to that link, and we're accepting donations. They keep our doors open. If you like these classes, you can always take private ones if there's something that you really, really want to learn. If you're like, hey, I want to learn foreshortening, or hey, I want to like help develop this comic that's in my brain. We are here to help you do that, and we'd love to help you do that. So you can always sign up for a private class. And otherwise, I hope you guys had fun. I hope you tried something new, and I hope that you join us next week, or sorry, next week, because next week is going to be March. So I hope you guys join us next month if you're into that, because the entire month is going to be devoted to cartooning. So awesome. You should totally join. I'm really excited for it. All right. Does anybody want to share any last minute finished works that they'd like to share? Yeah, you want to share? Let's see.
So I did a few, and they're obviously not finished, but yeah.
Oh, those look awesome. Those look, I can tell that you were really focusing in first on the shape, and then you focused in on like the value. Those look great.
Thank you.
Were those things that you had in your house?
I just found pictures because I wanted to draw a plant, but I didn't have any plants.
Yeah, no worries. They look great. That looks awesome. Thanks for sharing. The beans, yeah, cute little beans. All right, guys, I hope you had fun, and I will see you next week. All right, bye. Have a great week.
Have fun. Thanks, Lee.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. Bye, everyone.